Good morning, everybody. I'm Dr. Abhidha Dhumatkar, HOD History, Sathaye College. I welcome you all for this virtual heritage walk of Vileparle. Its growth from a rural hamlet into a Mumbai suburb. First of all, it is my earnest request to all the listeners to please switch off your audios and videos. Then only you will be able to enjoy the ride in a better way. Friends, we think that what is the need of local history? But if you observe carefully, you will realize that it is a local history which shapes our present life. We say that Gandhian movement was a national movement. But why did it become a national movement? Because every village and a small town participated in it. So our Sathaye College Autonomous History T.Y.B.A. students have arranged this heritage walk of Vileparle with a lot of labor. Enjoy this ride which will explain you the growth of Vileparle from a rural hamlet into a present Mumbai suburb. Now your guide will be Sarat Sasi.
विलेपार्ले। देखिए ये जो दिखाई देता है ये है विलेपार्ले। तो हम थोड़ा सा इतिहास जान लेते हैं विलेपार्ले का। तो विलेपार्ले जो है ये सैलसेट आइलैंड में आता है। तो हम सभी लोगों को पता है कि भारतवर्ष में मौर्य साम्राज्य थे। तो हमारे जो विलेपार्ले जो एरिया है सैलसेट आइलैंड में आता है, इधर भी मौर्य साम्राज्य रूल करते थे। मौर्य साम्राज्य के हाथों से ये शिलाहारास और वकाटकास के पास चले जाता है, सतवाहनास और फिर यादवास के पास चले जाता है। इसी में हमें एक दिखाई देता है कि द हिस्टोरिकल टेक्स्ट महिकावतीची बकर, द क्रॉनिकल ऑफ माहिम refers to the revenue collection of इडले एंड पडले, जो फिर आज का इरला और पारला बन जाता है। उसके बाद ये गुजरात के जो सुल्तान है उनके हाथों में चला गया था और 1534 में सुल्तान ऑफ गुजरात के हाथों से पोर्चुगीज इस एरिया पारला को जीत लिया जाता है और जो टर्निंग पॉइंट बन जाता है पारला का हिस्ट्री में, क्योंकि लोकल्स का लार्ज स्केल कन्वर्शन हो जाता है कैथोलिज्म और कई सारे चर्चों का निर्माण शुरू हो जाता है। फिर उसी के बाद 1739 में बसीन में बैटल होता है पोर्चुगीज और मराठाओं के बीच में और ये मराठाओं के हाथों में चले गया था। ये उन्हीं के हाथों में रहता है जब तक पहला एंग्लो मराठा वॉर नहीं होता है। पहला एंग्लो मराठा वॉर होते ही ये अंग्रेजों के पास चला गया था। उसके पास 1843 में अंग्रेजों ने विलेपार्ले को शिप ओनर्स वाडिया ब्रदर्स को लीज में दे दिया गया था, जहां से पारला का अर्बनाइजेशन का शुरुआत हमें दिखाई देता है। और उसी के साथ 1845 में कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ माहिम कॉसवे के कंस्ट्रक्शन के कारण मुंबई जो आइलैंड्स है, जो सिटी है, वो जो हमारे जो उपनगरी यानी कि सैलसट आइलैंड है इससे जोड़ दिया जाता है, जिसके कारण रेलवे लाइन भी यही वेस्टर्न साइड से जाने लगता है और हमारे जो विलेपार्ले एरिया है इसका डेवलपमेंट का बूस्ट हो जाता है। अभी मैं आगे क्या हिस्ट्री बताने के लिए हमारा नेक्स्ट टूर गाइड जानवी पवार को बोलता हूँ।
Hey friends, have you ever heard word Gautan? It stands for Locality of East Indian Christians. Due to mass conversion, Vileparle had become totally a Catholic hamlet from 16th to 19th century. The new converts came to be called as the East Indian Christians who spoke Marathi and were British citizens despite their Portuguese surname. Vileparle was full of East Indian Christian hamlets known by the Marathi word Gautan, which still gives a strong evidence of Portuguese influence in the form of housing and other living conditions. The houses in the Gautan showed a Portuguese influence and resembled the houses at Goa. Christmas is still celebrated in the Gautan with a great fervor. The East Indian Christians have retained many customs and food culture of Maharashtrians. They show a mixture of Portuguese and a native Maharashtrian culture. In the early 20th century, while non-Christian immigrants were pouring into Vileparle from South Bombay, the young generation of the local East Indian Christian, after receiving higher education, began to disperse outside Vileparle in search of a better employment. Do you know the school St. Xavier's was formed? The St. Xavier's Church was established in the Vileparle West in 1868. It also housed a primary school. Before this, the Christian of Vileparle used to go to Amboli Church or Santa Cruz Moral Church for Sunday Mass. There was a road connecting Vileparle to Kurla. An Anglo-Portuguese school was set up in 1882. Therefore, all those who wanted to study through English had to travel as far as Kar and Bandra. Thus, the St. Xavier School was the first English medium school established at Vileparle West at early in 1898. A father, Victor de Souza, conducted the classes of the school under the banyan tree. The school got its present premises when it started Anglo-Vernacular School in 1806 and the classes began to conducted in the premises in 1807. Now I over to our next tour guide, Karnali Tambe.
Immigration in Vileparle. Immigration from South Bombay. The two members of Vadya Trust, Mr. Krishna Mahadev Agashi and Solicitor Hari Sitaram Dixit, after settling down themselves in Vileparle, encouraged Maharashtrian immigrants from South Bombay to come and settle down in Vileparle. The road where Solicitor Hari Dixit had constructed his house in Vileparle is known today as Dixit Road, and the lane where Mr. Agashe house was situated is known today as Agashe Gully, near Vileparle station. The well-known Satyashodak activist Tukaram Tata Padwar's son, Rajaram Padwar, an international saffron merchant, purchased land where Kamli Wadi is situated today, in Vileparle. This place, previously known as Padwar Wadi, came to be known as Kamli Wadi after Rajaram Padwar's daughter Sushila had married in the Kamli family, ultimately settled down there. Now listen to our next guide, Mansi Pawar.
Nationalist School and KELAVNI Mandal. In the first decade of 20th century, a Gujarati medium primary school was run at the household of Mr. Udyasi. This school came to be known as Rashtriya Shala or a nationalist school as early as 1917, as the teachers of the school were involved in active nationalist politics. They set up an organization called as KELAVNI Mandal so that the school will have at least some teachers to look after it throughout. The Gujarati word Kelvani means education. So, Kelvani Mandal means education committee. When the school got its own premises, it was formally inaugurated by nationalist leader Mr. Vittalbhai Patel in 1921 under the title Vileparle Rashtriya Shala. It was then situated what is today known as Dadabai Navroji Road. The school was strong champions of Gandhi's principle of Swadeshi. The Kelvani Mandal set up a chain of educational institutions in Vileparle West, such as Mitibai College, Jamnabai Narsimonji School, Jitendra Chauhan College of Law, and so on. Now, I hand over to the next guide, my friend Sakshi.
So, all the information shared by our previous guides is already amazing, and I shall do more on the history of some places in Vileparla. So, do you guys know about the famous Narsimhonji College and the importance of this name Narsimhonji? Let us find out the interesting history behind it. So, Mr. Narsi Monji, born in the year 1887, was the founder of the famous Golden Tobacco Company. Although he was initially involved in many petty businesses, but his association with the civil disobedience movement and the establishment of this company, both in the year 1930, rose his prominence to a very high level. After the year 1944, his son Chhatrabhuj took over the enterprise and founded a trust to start an educational institute. The well-known Narsi Monji College of Commerce and Economics and the Narsi Monji Institute of Management Studies bears the name of this great personality, Mr. Narsi Monji, and was established in the year 1964 and 81 respectively by the KELAVNI Mandal. Moving ahead, we now go to another important personality whose name we have all seen or heard, Miss Maniben Nanavati. Yes, the Maniben Nanavati College bears the name of Mrs. Maniben Nanavati, who was a Gandhian activist from Vileparle. She became a Gandhian activist due to her marriage to Mr. Chandulal Nanavati in the year 1922, who was a Gandhian activist himself. Did you guys know that Gandhiji actually stayed in Vileparle when he was on his way to attend the Roundtable Conference in England? Yes, he did stay here, and she, with her husband, were the one who arranged Gandhiji's stay in Vileparle. And not only this, she also worked with the Kasturba Fund and the Suburban Relief to help famine-stricken people. She also established the Khadi Bhandar in Vileparle and a school working on Gandhian principles known as the Chandulal Nanavati Kanya Vinay School. Due to her contribution, she was publicly known as the Khadi Mata. Moving on, we have another national school established by Mahatma Gandhi's follower in the year 1922 at Vileparle West, what was previously known as explained by our tour guide Mansi, the Rashtriya Shala, and was later named as Gokhlibai Punamchand Pitambar High School. So you might wonder why the name Gokhlibai. This is because Srimati Gokhlibai Punamchand donated INR 50,000 to this school, and hence the name was changed as a mark of respect towards her. Moving ahead, we now talk about a road almost many of us has crossed by at some or the other point. This is the Nanda Patkar Road of Vileparle East near the station. But where does it get this name? Let us dig in and find out more about it. So Mr. N.D. Patkar, popularly known as Nanda Patkar, was an actor turned politician. He, along with his father, Mr. D.A. Patkar, was an active member of the Lokmanya Seva Sangh. He gained popularity when he supported the cause of the Sanyukta Maharashtra movement and took part in elections. The next stop that we now visit is the Prathana Samaj Road and the D.N. SIRUR Orphanage. Just like the previous institutes, these two famous institutes also owe their name to famous personalities and have their own history. So, the orphanage was originally set up by the Samaj in Pandharpur and had its branch here at Vileparle. A school was also attached to the orphanage in the year 1957, specifically for the orphanage boys, and this school came to be called as the Prathana Samaj School, and the road was named as the Prathana Samaj Road. The orphanage was now known as the D.N. SIRUR Orphanage, gets its name because Mrs. Sundarabai SIRUR, who made donations to this orphanage after the death of her husband. Moving ahead, we now visit the Bhutta High School of Vileparle, which draws its name from the freedom fighter Bhaidas Bhutta. He was associated with the Rashtriya Shala right from his beginning and was the one to influence Gokhlibai to donate that youth sum to the KELAVNI Mandal. Due to his close association in the Satyagraha camp and participation in the civil disobedience movement, he was also imprisoned in the Thane jail. He, along with his brother, who was in the construction industry, Mr. Nagardas Dharmsi Bhutta, constructed low-budget houses at Virar. He was the secretary of the Textile Labor Union from the year 1939 to 1943. Moving ahead, we now visit a residence of a person known as the Pardy House. So you might wonder why the name Pardy House. This is because Mr. Triambak Pardy and his wife Chandrabai Pardy owned this place and they stayed here. They were one of the pillars of the Parle Tilak Vidyalaya in its early days, much before the formal announcement of the establishment of the Parle Tilak Vidyalaya Association on 9th June 1921. Mrs. Chandrabai Pardy held girls' primary school of Parle Tilak Vidyalaya here at her residence of the Pardy House, and it is still situated at the same place. Next, we visit another great lady whose name is given to a road perhaps many of us have been through. This is the Ramabai Chemburkar Road. She was the niece of the well-known Mr. Ganpatrao Mahatre, an active citizen of the Service League and a member of Vileparle Andheri municipality. Also, the president of the Market Garden Association. She also acquired various positions in the Lokmanya Tilak Seva Sangh, and apart from this, she also taught women sewing and stitching and worked for the spread of the Hindi language. And due to her great work, the municipality gave the road where she resided her name as the Ramabai Chemburkar Road. So by now, you all must have realized the importance of Vileparle and how Vileparle has such a glorious past that almost every part of it has its own very special history. Just like this, we now move on to see the Agashewadi, whose name is drawn from Mr. Krishnaji Mahadev Agashe. So he encouraged middle class Maharashtrians to settle down in Vileparle and prevailed upon the government to make changes in the existing Khoti laws. He was a member of the Vadia Trust and also one of the founder of the Parle Tilak Vidyalaya. So, do you guys ever wonder who must have written the first book on the history of Vileparle? He was none other than Rambhau Barve, whose name is also known to the common public through his road, the Rambhau Barve Road. An active member of the Lokmanya Seva Sangh, he, along with Mr. N.D. Patkar, floated a scheme of selling residential plot in Vileparle East, popularly known as the Barve Patkar scheme. Moving ahead, we live in India, and we all know that post offices for a long time until today in some parts of India serve as a major communication factor. But did you guys ever wonder how Vileparle got its first post office? It was due to the consistent correspondence with the government by Bapuji Mahadev Parte Mahant that Vileparle received its first post office in August 1925. In the memory of this, the Vileparle municipality named the road where he lived as the Mahant Road. In such a religiously diverse and culturally rich land of our nation, temples play a very important role in our life. So much so that many roads are named after the temple that are situated there. And just like that, here in Vileparle, we also have many roads which are named on the temple that are situated on that road. Just like that, number one, we have the Parleshwar Road. So the word Parleshwar means the Lord of Village Parla. And this temple was founded in the year 1912 when some workers found a stone in the shape of an arrow and identified it as Shiva. The stone was kept for public worship from the year 1912 to 1934, and thus the road was named as the Parleshwar Road. Just like that, we have the Ram Mandir Road, known after the Ram Temple, which is situated there, and the Hanuman Road, which also bears a same scenario, also has the name of Hanuman Road because of the Hanuman Temple situated there. And this temple was constructed around in the year 1921 to 22 by Mr. Narayan Thosar, who is publicly also known by the Thosarwadi, which till today exists in the same place where he stayed. Thus, I move the stage to our next tour guide, Ms. Simran Singh.
The Vileparle station that we see today. Do you know when it was constructed and by whom? It was constructed in the year 1907 and by Mr. Govardhan Das Tejpal. The Tejpal Road, Tejpal Scheme and Mongibai Road are all associated with the Tejpal family. Said Gokuldas Tejpal was a Bhatia merchant who did a lot of charity for his community and others. His son Govardhan Das Tejpal had done a lot of charity in South Bombay. When he came to Vileparle for permanent sojourn in 1903, there was no railway station at Vileparle, and his house was situated where we find the present Vileparle station. He used to get the feeling that the train was running next to his bungalow, yet was of no avail to him. He appealed to the government to construct railway station, for which he donated rupees 3,000. The Vileparle station was constructed in the year 1907. Since the compound of his bungalow was coming in railway track, he modified it. The road running by the side of Vileparle station is known today as Tejpal Road. He also donated his plot to build vegetable market near Vileparle East Station, where the present market is located. The road perpendicular to this market is known as Mongibai Road, after his wife Mongibai. The Tejpals owned extensive plots of land in the north of Vileparle, where they constructed a long road and houses by its side, which were offered for sale. This entire complex of apartment is known today as Tejpal scheme, and the road by the side is known as Tejpal Road. Said Govardhan Das Tejpal got constructed his palace-like bungalow at Vileparle, known as More Bangla, due to the tin peacock at the pinnacle of the bungalow. The construction of More Bangla was started in the year 1904 and was completed in 1910. The bungalow had a compound of 4 acres in which there was a garden, a swimming pool, a gaushala, and many fountains. The bungalow was surrounded by a cement compound wall and a dome decorated with multicolored glass. More Bangla was a monument to glory of Vileparle, not only for its magnificent beauty, but for the various political meetings held there by national leaders like Subhash Chandra Bose, Shankar Rao Dev, and many others. Said Govardhan Das Tejpal was the chairman of Parle Resident Association, the meeting of which were held in More Bangla. Former Prime Minister of India, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, had a memories of studying at More Bangla during her 10th standard as a student of vocational studies, which lectures were held at this bungalow. Said Govardhan Das Tejpal was associated with Gandhiji and national movement and used More Bangla for his nationalist and community activity till his death in 1925. After 1922, the bungalow was rented out by the Tejpal family and was finally sold and demolished in the year 1957. Now, our next tour guide, Nitan Churi, will guide you further.
So hello everyone, this is your guide Nitanchuri. So as you all know that there are various associations set up for different kind of works, right? So one such association was established in 1907 in Vileparle, which was known as the Vileparle Residents Association. It was established by the government to work after the civil matter of the citizens. The committee was already established in 1906, but was not active in working with the demands of the citizens. Consequently, the citizens of Vileparle decided to handle this matter by their own collective initiative. During this quarrel with the local solicitor, Hari Sitaram Dikshit arranged for the Vileparle police in 1908. Looking at the legislature of the notified area committee, Vishnu Mahadev Paranspe set up Vileparle Town Planning Association in 1916. Other citizens like Govardhan Das Tejpal, Chandulal Nanavati, Hari Sitaram Dikshit and engineer Nanabhai Hate set up Vileparle Residents Association in 1917 at More Bangla. The organization persuaded the government to construct roads and put up street lamps in Vileparle. The railway station, which we see now, was set up in 1907, had no indicators at all, and there was only one ticketing window which was present on the west side of the station. The consistent efforts of the Vileparle Residents Association were successful, and indicators were installed and a new ticketing window came up in the east. Bapuji Mahadev Mahant was a very active member of the association. He corresponded with the government to set up a post and telegram office in Vileparle. He had a very good point. He pointed out that both Santa Cruz and Andheri, which had a population of less than 7,000, compared to Vileparle, which consisted of 10,000 plus citizens, according to the census of 1921, had post offices. In 1925, the Vileparle Post and Telegram Office was established by the efforts of Bapuji Mahadev Mahant. Therefore, the road where he resides was later renamed, as we all know, Mahant Road in Vileparle. Vileparle Resident Association also protested against the rise in railway fare. The association's demand to set up separate municipality at places including Vileparle, Juhu, Santa Cruz, Ghatkopar, Kurla, Andheri under the supervision of a board divided into 4 groups was accepted. This association was dissolved in 1940 and it completely disappeared from 1950. Now let us know about the Tilak impact on Vileparle. After the death of Lokmanya Tilak on 1st August 1920, his followers at Vileparle held a meeting on 24th April 1921 to discuss about how his memorial can be established at Vileparle. The decision was made to establish a school in Tilak's memory. Mrs. Chandrabai Pardi, Sonabai Rao, and Gangubai Kunte had already started primary education for girls from 14 Jan 1921 at the Pardi residence. On 9th June 1921, the PARLE TILAK Vidyalaya Association was established, which set up a primary school for girls and secondary school for boys. In 1923, they got a proper building for the school. Mr. Pardi's influence was responsible for adding an industrial training class in the school from 1923 to 1926. During these classes, girls were taught knitting and sewing, and boys had classes of gardening and carpentry. Mrs. Chandrabai Pardi also held an exhibition in the school in which the products manufactured by the students were exhibited. The association thought that setting up a college for higher education would be a great idea. So, the Parla College was set up in 1959 with C.B. Joshi as the principal. In 1993, Parla College was renamed, as we all know, Sathaye College. The association also set up a commerce college in Vileparle, which was named as Dahanogar College. A commerce college was also set up at Mulund with the name Mulund College of Commerce. In 1970, the Paranspe School was set up in Andheri. Another group of Tilak's followers at Vileparle started the Lokmanya Seva Sangh in October 1923. This organization has been active in the various domains of social life via its different wings such as Women's Wing, Sports Wing, etc. It has also set up a public library. The organization has been holding public lectures of eminent scholars of the day, which included even politicians and leaders like Shankar Rao Dev, Subhash Chandra Bose, etc. The present Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, had visited this institute in 2019 to witness the traditional Maharashtrian Ganesh festival. The organization mirrored every minute social and cultural change in the public life of Vileparle. Overall, Lokmanya Tilak had a really great impact on Vileparle. Now, your friend, guide Kajal Sharma will let you know about the Gandhian movement in Vileparle.
Friends, do you know Gandhiji had stayed Juhu at many times? Vileparle and the civil disobedience movement of 1930. Gandhiji had many followers in Vileparle West and Juhu from 1920, such as Bhaidas Bhutta, Chandulal Nanavati, Sonabai Rao, and so on. Vileparle and Ratnagiri were selected as main center of civil disobedience movement 1930 in Maharashtra. Satyagraha camp was set up at Swami Vivekanand Road, for which Mr. Jivanlal and Mrs. Kamlaben Sonawla, the owner of aluminium company, had donated the land. The Satyagraha camp was managed and supervised by well-known Gandhian businessman Jamnalal Bajaj. A group of Satyagrahis, students from the National School of Pune, came working off feet to Vileparle camp. The leader like B.D. Kher, future Chief Minister of Bombay Presidency, Yashwantrao Chavan, Keshorilal Mashruwala, Acharya Dharmanand Kosambi, Gangadhar Rao Deshpande, Gokulbai Bhatt, and Lokmanya Tilak's grandson G.V. Khetkar stayed in the camp. Initially, the Swarajya Party, led by M.C. Khelkar in Maharashtra, wanted to enter the Legislative Assembly, but an agreement was reached between their group and Mahatma Gandhi at Juhu. The Satyagrahis at Vileparle started their Satyagraha simultaneously with Mahatma Gandhi's Sabarmati Satyagraha on 6th April 1930. Early morning, the Satyagrahis moved to Juhu in the group of 4 persons each and carried salty water and deposited at home. This continued on 6th and 7th April. However, in the night of 7th April, the police arrested Mr. Jamnalal Bajaj, who was later on imprisoned for 2 years. Therefore, the responsibility of the camp passed to Swami Anand. 75 Satyagrahis from the camp headed for Dharasana under the leadership of Sheikh Abdullah. In the end of late 1930, the police threw horses at a group of non-violent protesters. One of them, Babu Hule, died consequently. His dead body was carried to Vileparle, was paraded up to Lokmanya Seva Sangh by the citizens of Vileparle with tears in their eyes. The Satyagrahis hosted Indian national tricolor in and outside the camp at Vileparle and sang patriotic song in the Prabhat Feres. After the civil disobedience movement came to an end, the Gold and Tobacco Company was set up at the location of former Satyagraha camp. And the Satyagrahis, namely Maniben Nanavati and Sonabai Rao, set up Khadi Bhandar at Vileparle in 1934. Gandhiji had a very close association with Vileparle West and Juhu. While leaving for England for the second round table conference, Gandhiji stayed in Vileparle and was taken care by Mrs. Maniben Nanavati. Gandhiji stayed 4 times at Janaki Kutir, a bungalow owned by Mr. Jamnalal Bajaj. His evening prayer was widely attended by the citizens. In fact, during the Cripps mission plan, Sir Trafford Cripp negotiated with Gandhiji at Janaki Kutir. Now, our next tour guide, Sanchi Wagmare, will guide us.
Culture of Vileparle and aviation. With Maharashtrians and Gujaratis settling down in Vileparle, they developed their cultural education institutions. Sarvajanik Ganesh Utsav was celebrated at various places, including Lokmanya Sevagan. Mr. Bhaidas Bhutta, who settled down in Vileparle in 1916, introduced Navratri Utsav and Garba. It is still continued to be celebrated in Vileparle with fervor during the freedom movement. They separate nationalist ideas. However, during the post-independence period, they have become a source of recreation and entertainment. After the Gujarati primary school was established, Mr. Gokulbhai Bhutta took initiative to set up a Sanskrit Pathshala, and Arvinda Sanskrit Sabha for the promotion of Sanskrit language. The debating and literary society was also established by the student of Nationalist School. Mr. Gokul Bhai Bhutta and Mr. Madhav Dixit set up Vileparle Sport and Literary Association in 1928. Its two secretary Mr. Pai and Rajyadak arranged for the training of cricket. Dr. Nevrekar, a resident of Vileparle, set up an institution to give training below the age of 18. The trainee won award including the Govardhan Das Trophy from Kharjin Khana. Well-known cricket players Pardesi and Mahale settled down in Vileparle. The well-known players also began to coach the municipality and also allotted a plot for the Institute of Vileparle playground. The organization enabled to senior citizens to play cards and caroms. They also tried badminton and table tennis. By stealing out the grass from the playground, the society purchased the equipment required for cricket. However, the organization soon began the income losses and finally closed down. Mr. V.G. Kare launched the newspaper Tanatkar and Dr. V.H. Bhedekar started Shaswati Samachar to report the news of the Salsad district. A suburban literary congress, Upanagariya Sahitya Sammelan, was held at Vileparle in 1929. Mr. G.G. Bhosekar started the Scout movement by setting up Lokmanya Roar Group for young boys. Similarly, Miss Chandrabai Pardi started Girl Scout wings in 1926. The Flying Club was set up at Juhu in 1928 to giving training in aviation. The Tatas who wanted to an aerodrome was at Juhu in 1932, and J.R.E. Tata flew from Karachi to Juhu. Two well-known personalities of Vileparle have been Mr. Ganpatrao Mhatre, the sculptor of international repute, and Mr. P.L. Deshpande, well-known Marathi writer. Well-known was born and brought up at Vileparle, settled down in Vileparle. After his education, J.J. School of Arts, Mr. Ganpatrao earned fame for his picture to the temple. It means a woman's traditional Maharashtrian costume. His another picture, Saraswati, also gained his recognition going to the emotion of simplicity, painted on the face of woman's stage. He was commissioned by the Iranians to build the statue of Firdoshi. The roads of Vileparle station to Mahatre's residence at Mahant Road was constructed to enable the governor of Bombay Presidency to visit him. Mr. Balkhund Punjabi, a cloth merchant, constructed a building, his own bungalow and a well near the residence of Matres at Mahant Road, and donated a plot to the National School or the Rashtriya Pathshala. However, after Mr. Punjabi incurred heavy losses in business, he sold all his property to Mr. Brij Mohan Lakshmidas Narayan in BL Ruia and purchased a flat in his own soil. The suburban branch of Arya Samaj was active in Vileparle during these days and was later on shifted to SV Road, Santa Cruz. A Hindi medium school functioned from 1937 to 1939 and was finally merged with present B.L. Ruia High School. Some South Indian families settled down in Vileparle in 1930s. A Telugu school was set up in Kambliwadi in 1932 and the well-known Ram Krishna Hotel was set up on 1st May 1943. Vileparle Malayali Samaj was set up in 1965. Now listen to next guide Tirtha.
As you all know, Vileparle has many industrial heritage sites. Here I will show you some of the famous industrial sites of Vileparle. The first industry you see is the Sathaye ink factory. Mr. Vinayak Sathaye, the originator of Sathaye Business House, started his cottage industry of resin of manufacturing near More Bangla after graduating in chemistry. His son Sharad, and a matriculation university rank holder, took his higher education in England and started manufacturing ink, thus converting his father's cottage industry into Sathaye Ink Manufacturing Company. Moving ahead, we have the Parle Biscuit Factory, with which everyone will be quite familiar as it has been a part of our childhood and still is. But do you know how it was established and when? It was set up in 1925 by Narottam Mohanlal Chauhan. His father Mohanlal used to import silk sari, which he used to get designed in India. He sent his son Narottam to UK to learn chocolate manufacturing. Narottam set up chocolate manufacturing company in 1929. You must know the chocolates at those times had no wrapper and were put in bottles. Gradually, Narottam Chauhan learned biscuit manufacture and converted his company into Biscuit Manufacturing Company in 1934. Initially, he was not getting good response and was thinking of giving up product, but slowly he began to gain profit and during Second World War, he turned to soft drink manufacture. Did you know this company was first of its kind all over India manufacturing soft drink and biscuit together? Even after independence, the company began to function efficiently in Vileparle. However, in the second decade of 21st century, it shifted to Gujarat. Last but not the least heritage industry you see here is the Golden Tobacco Limited. Do you know when it was established? It was in the year 1930 by Narsi Monji. The company was changed to a private concern in the year 1955 and went public in the year 1970. In the year 1979, the company was taken over by the Dalmia Industries. Later, the company diversified their business into petrochemical additives and paper, and hence the name of the company was changed from Golden Tobacco Company Limited to GTC Industries Limited, with effect from August 20, 1985. In July 2008, the company name was changed from GTC Industries Limited to Golden Tobacco Limited. Later, the company decided to demerge tobacco and realty business into separate companies. Now, over to the next guide, Rohit Taral. He will guide you further with the walk.
आतापर्यंत या प्रवासात काही प्रसिद्ध व्यक्ती तसेच विशिष्ट स्थळांची आपण दर्शन घडले, तरी हा प्रवास विलेपार्लेच्या काही प्रसिद्ध तीर्थस्थानांना भेट दिल्याशिवाय हा प्रवास अधुरा आहे. चला तर पाहूया पहिलं तीर्थस्थान, ते म्हणजे श्री पार्लेश्वर मंदिर. पार्ले गावाचे मंदिर म्हणून ओळखल्या जाणाऱ्या पार्ले मंदिराची स्थापना 1912 साली झाली. मंदिराच्या आवारात एक जुनी विहीर आहे. त्या विहिराचे खोदकाम चालू असताना मजुरांना तिथे एक बांध सापडला. त्यामुळे देव सापडला म्हणून ते मजूर ओरडू लागले. शिवबान स्वच्छ करून ते श्री विष्णू बाळकृष्ण परांजपे यांनी विहिरीच्या बाजूला श्री लेले गुरुजींच्या घरात पत्र्याच्या शेडमध्ये या बाणाची स्थापना केली. पुढे 1934 साली शेडे स्वामी म्हणजे शंकराचार्य यांच्या हस्ते भूमिपूजन करून नवीन मंदिराची स्थापना झाली. ते आज तागायत आपल्याला हे मंदिर दिसून येते. दुसरे मंदिर म्हणजे श्री मद्रास राम मंदिर. 1930 ते 1935 हा काळ विलेपार्लेसाठी खूप महत्वाचा होता. याच काळामध्ये मोठ्या मोठ्या व्यापाऱ्यांना तसेच गुजरात व दक्षिण भारतातून काही लोकांना स्थलांतरित करून बोलवले होते. या दक्षिण भारतातून आलेल्या शहान परिवारांनी या मद्रास राम मंदिराची स्थापना केली. या मंदिराच्या प्रवेशद्वाराशी एक राक्षसाचे चित्र आहे. हे आपल्याला दक्षिण भारतातच प्रामुख्याने आढळून येतं. तसेच मद्रास राम मंदिरात रथयात्रा काढली जाते. हेही आपल्याला दक्षिण भारतातच प्रामुख्याने आढळून येते. या मंदिरात आधी राम, लक्ष्मण, सीता यांच्या मूर्त्या होत्या व त्याही दक्षिण भारतातूनच आणलेल्या होत्या. परंतु कालांतराने या मंदिरात हनुमानाचेही मंदिर उभारलेले आहे. तसेच आजच्या काळात या ठिकाणी एक गौशाळा आहे. तसेच या मंदिराच्या आवारात हे शहानबाग परिवार राहत सुद्धा आहे. तसेच या मंदिरामध्ये रामनवमी हा सण मोठ्या उत्साहात साजरा केला जातो. तसेच या मंदिरामध्ये रामदास स्वामी यांच्या पादुकाही आणलेल्या होत्या व त्यांचे भजन कीर्तन करून त्यांचे स्वागतही केले जाते. अशा प्रकारे दक्षिण भारतातला आणि महाराष्ट्राच्या संस्कृतीचा एकोपा आपल्याला विलेपार्लेच्या या मंदिरांमध्ये दिसून येतो. पुढचं मार्गदर्शक मारुती पाचंगे हे आपल्याला पुढची माहिती देते.
विलेपार्लेमधील जैन धर्मीयाचे सर्वात मोठे श्रद्धास्थान असलेले श्री चिंतामणी पार्श्वनाथ शैतांबर जैन मंदिर हे विलेपार्लेमधील एक मोठे श्रद्धास्थान आहे. 1936 मध्ये स्थापित झालेले जैन धर्मीयाचे सगळ्यात मोठे असे विलेपार्लेमधील हे एकमेव तीर्थक्षेत्र म्हणून ओळखले जाते. श्वेतांबर जैन धर्मीय पंथ येथे मोठ्या प्रमाणात आपली प्रार्थना स्थळे जमवण्यासाठी येतात. प्राचीन परंपरांचा आणि योग्य रीतींचा वापर करून या मंदिरांचे बांधकाम करण्यात आले आहे. अत्यंत प्रशस्त अशा चौथऱ्यावर या मंदिराचे बांधकाम संगमरवी दगडापासून तयार करण्यात आले आहे. इंडो ग्रीक या पद्धतीने या मंदिराची स्थापना करण्यात आली असून या मंदिरात आजही जैन धर्मीय मोठ्या संख्येने उपस्थित राहतात. संन्यास आश्रमची स्थापना 1945 मध्ये श्री स्वामी महेश्वरानंद महामंडलेश्वर यांनी हिंदू धर्माच्या पुनर्स्थापनेसाठी, गौसेवेसाठी, संस्कृत महाविद्यालयांसाठी, धार्मिक पुस्तकांच्या प्रकाशनासाठी केली होती. संन्यास आश्रम मध्ये आजही मोठ्या प्रमाणात विविध प्रकारे धार्मिक उत्सव साजरे केले जातात. हिंदू धर्माच्या पुनर्स्थापनेसाठी वेगवेगळ्या कार्यक्रमातून येथे उपक्रम राबवले जातात. यापुढे माझे सहकारी अक्षय आपल्याला मार्गदर्शन करतील.
Friends, did you enjoy the virtual walk of Vileparle? You may have been resident at Vileparle or might have visited Vileparle before. But did you ever imagine that Vileparle has so much connection with national history and national movements? The history of Vileparle in the late 19th and early 20th century is nothing but a story of gradual urbanization. Such story can be compiled about each suburban of Mumbai. And my friends, I request you to take initiative in that direction. Have a good day. Thank you.